This episode is brought to you by Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. Now, welcome to the Unconventional Project. I'm your host, Vanessa Grayson, and for the past few years, I've been navigating the multifamily industry on my own terms, embracing my authentic self, if you will. It's been a wild ride filled with triumphs and challenges, success and imposter syndrome, doubts and shortcomings, but one thing is clear: there's no single pathway to success. The mission of the Unconventional Project is to shine a light on the thoughts and experiences of other uniquely cultivated leaders and processes who have taken an unconventional pathway to achieve their goals. We're here to celebrate the diverse and creative minds that need to be heard, to collaborate on the joys and struggles of authentic, unique leadership, and simply bring our whole selves to a table designed for everyone. Are you ready? It's time to embrace the unconventional. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. At whatever time you are tapping into this episode, thank you so much for being here. We are back with another episode of the Unconventional Project, brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. And before we kick this episode off, shameless plug per usual. If you have not already found the Unconventional Project either on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please go ahead and pause this episode. Go take care of that. But chances are you're probably listening to this episode on one of those platforms. And so if you haven't already, just make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with when I'm releasing episodes for the future. If you love my content and also want to explore all the incredible hosts that the Multifamily Media Network host for, I guarantee there is a podcast bound to fit what you're looking for. So we have podcast hosts that talk about everything, quite honestly, in the multifamily space. So maintenance and leasing, marketing. We have so many very wise, very experienced and knowledgeable podcast hosts. And I guarantee that you're going to be able to find one that aligns with what you're looking for, with content that you want to continuously hear. So, little shameless plug. As always, go visit Multifamily Media Network and go support some of our other absolutely incredible hosts. I am so excited to be back for this episode. I want to preface this episode by saying that at the time that I'm recording this, it's actually like almost 10 p.m. at night. I tucked my kids into bed and I actually went to go just kind of lie down and like start to wind down. And for some reason, I could not get this thought out of my head, this bit of content out of my head. And I literally came back into my office, opened up my laptop, set up my camera, set up my ring light, got the mic all hooked up. And I was just like, I really need to kind of get this off my chest. Because I know that if, I am sharing an experience in this season, I know that someone else is. And it's weird because for a little bit, I was like, okay, this really aligns with like seasonal depression. Like, here's the thing. If you know anything about the Midwest, you know that we're going to get 4 seasons in a week. I can actually prove this to you right now, as just a few days ago, we are smooth sailing in the mid 60s. Feels wonderful outside. Today it is thunderstorming with like 70-mile-per-hour winds, literally as I'm recording this right now. And tomorrow we're actually expecting snow, a blizzard, for literally just one day. And the rest of the week it starts to clear up and like we gradually work ourselves into better temperatures. So that's Midwest seasonal depression for you. But as I just kind of think about the season that I'm in right now, I think there are a lot of things that are going really well, but I do think there are some things that I'm facing that is, can be quite challenging. And I think one of the biggest challenges I'm facing right now is really accepting a no for what it is and really working through the understanding that, just kind of like I touched on before, like really staying in my discipline and in my discernment at this moment, which is, my word of the year for 2025, being discernment, and just really understanding the power of a no. And I've really had to sit with myself on this because I don't spend enough time sitting with any type of no that I've received. And I know that that's pretty normal. Like, who wants to feel that level of rejection? Who wants to sulk in the shoulda, coulda, woulda if the answer was was a yes? And I know that I'm not the only one feeling that. I was having a conversation with a really phenomenal friend of mine, and the conversation was just really centered around having never received so many no's, like back to back to back to back. And it almost kind of makes you question yourself and like your own self-confidence. And, in talking to this individual, he's very much just like, I really don't know what God is teaching me right now. I don't know what lesson I'm supposed to be learning. I have never received this many no's so continuously and so repetitively. And I can honestly really relate to that. My no's are coming in a little bit different capacity than this friend of mine that I have, but I think the word no is like very universal, right? I think automatically we have this negative connotation with the word no, and we truly never consider that, what we believe to be rejection doesn't necessarily define our worth. And I think we're so quick to associate a no with being, being our level of value and trying to put a numeric on how valuable that we truly are. And then really just not understanding that a no is often about like timing or, fit or perspective. And it's not a direct reflection of one's value. So I think right now for me, I'm having trouble with the clarity in my brain that a no is not personal. A no is absolutely not personal. And I'm really big on telling others, like, how do we shift the mindset, right? How do we take the rejection of a no and really turn it into redirection? And so, that the age old saying of like instead of why me, why not me? Or what am I supposed to be learning here? And I'm really sitting in this right now. And I just kind of want to share the key things that I've come up with that have really helped, myself right now at this moment with just kind of some of the internal transitions that I'm going through and really rewiring my brain at this point. I think about my entire 10-year tenure in this industry, and the no moments always stick out to me the most, more than any yes that I've ever received. And of course, the no's are, I've received far more no's than I've received yeses. And I can chalk that up to a multitude of things and a multitude of reasons outside of, timing and fit and perspective, like I kind of mentioned earlier. But I did come up with a couple things that I really want to share. And ultimately, in sharing this, my hope would be that it really just resonates with someone on a different level. The season of no is a hard one, but just a couple things that I wanted to touch on. So the first being that a no is going to build resilience and a no is going to be growth. I actually just had this conversation with my son right now as he's experiencing something that means a lot to him. And he's going through the process of understanding what resilience is and really understanding, what opportunities of growth look like. And I love that we're kind of getting to experience it together, experience that together. It's an incredible life lesson to learn, along with the other ones that he's learning at the same time. But every successful person, all these people that we idolize, whether they be celebrities or authors, inventors, like whomever they are, every single person has faced a level of rejection, whether they are forthcoming about it or not. I know that, I've heard so many times like, gosh, I don't know how you do it. And I literally tell people all the time, I do it because I've been turned around so many times, that eventually after you're turned around so many times and you're redirected so many times, the only path that you have to take is the one that leads to success. And then I think ultimately, like through that growth process, a no is really forcing you to refine what your goals look like. It's also really forcing you to reassess what your priorities are. Is this something that actually truly aligned? Is this something, whatever you were working toward, whatever you received this level of rejection on, is it actually something that aligned with what or where or how you see yourself in the future? Was this going to temporarily appease you, or was this going to have some sort of longevity? And working toward ultimately what you're after, who you see yourself as, or where you see yourself in the next, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be. And then, through the growth process as well, that resiliency piece it's a must when you're seeking to be a leader or you're continuing to grow in the leadership space. And we've just got to embrace not necessarily what I call a failure, but a shortcoming for sure, an opportunity for learning as part of the journey. And I think ultimately those are the most incredible moments on your journey, is to be able to look back and say, I was redirected here, I fell short here. And that's the most beautiful part of the way that I was taken. Another thing that I kind of came to the conclusion on is sometimes as you're working through that reassessment or that moment of refining things, you can actually find that the no is a redirection to something a lot better than you absolutely anticipated. So a moment to me that really sticks out in my career is a little bit earlier on, I had joined the Institute of Real Estate Management, and I really saw benefit in me submitting an application to be one of IREM's 30 under 30s. And I remember the requirements for this application so specifically because it's a moment that I've talked about on a few different occasions. I think on a couple different podcast episodes as well. So I may keep this this little storytelling moment a little bit shorter. But I remember the qualifications for this application pretty vividly. And I remember getting everything filled out and just knowing that every single response that I gave, like just feeling so proud, like actually being able to see my accomplishments for what they were on paper, and to be able to share them with a potential judge that was looking at the nominations for this particular program to award the individuals. Like, I just knew that a judge reading this would be able to feel what I felt writing it down, just like the level of pride and the level of achievement, the level of success and just accomplishment, especially after, well, really just especially with that point that I was in my life. I was pretty young. It was still kind of the beginning phases of my multifamily career. I had been in the industry for a few years at that point. But I remember needing my supervisor at the time to write me a letter of recommendation. And so, as nervous as I was, because the last thing I wanted to do was like put all this work in to apply for a program that just didn't seem like I was going to get it. But I really did believe in myself in that moment. And I remember going to my supervisor and I'm like, hey, I would like to see if you have time to write me a letter of recommendation. And I remember this individual asking what it was for. And I felt comfortable enough to share with this individual, like, this is what it's for. I'm so excited about it. I really do feel like everything that I've accomplished, like, really makes sense for me to try to apply for this. And this individual looked at me and said, I mean, I can fill it out for you, but you're not going to get it. And gosh, the moment, it was such a moment of impact for me. I definitely don't want to say like I was sad, but definitely a little bit confused why the person that was leading me just felt like didn't feel as proud of the stuff that I knew I was achieving. And I was like, you know what? I told the individual, I said, I don't think it really matters to me whether I get it or not. I think at this point I would just like to try. I would like to take all this work that I've put into this specific application and I would like to try to see it through. And I submitted it with his letter of recommendation, which was actually so nice, by the way. It was a great letter. And I submitted it, and I remember just kind of sitting with myself and really analyzing if a person, if I was going to receive a no like this, was it on me to just kind of sit in the space of like questioning myself, okay, I'm not good enough, and really tying it to my self-worth? Or was I going to see it as that opportunity for growth and resilience and redirection, and just reassessing the environment that I was in? I remember giving my letter of resignation. I remember the Institute of Real Estate Management tracking me down because I was no longer working for that company. I remember the Institute of Real Estate Management tracking me down on my personal email because I had supplied them with my work email, letting me know that they had been trying to get in touch with me because I was one of the Institute of Real Estate Management's global 30 under 30s. And I think it was in that moment that I truly understood how powerful a no could be. And that just to this point, that a no can really be redirection to something better. I was now out of an environment under a leader who I don't know was malicious in intent. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe that, whether we intend to deliver a message a specific way, I do think that it does matter how it's received. And I do think that plays a part in, transparent communication. And again, I don't believe that leader had malicious intent, but what it did do is allow me to just reassess my environment. Like, is this a space I can continue to grow in when I'm asking for something that didn't seem big? So what happens when I am asking for something that is at a much larger capacity? What happens when I go to ask for that promotion? Or what happens when I go to ask for support in a different manner? Is this environment going to be conducive for, me to feel that way? I have to really continue to ask myself, if I receive a no, could that potentially lead me to my greatest yes? And that is really just how I've adjusted my mindset at this point, and really something I challenge everyone to really look at. Like, if I receive a no, could it lead to my potential greatest yes? And then my final thing to really just kind of consider and really just to kind of sit in is how you respond to a no, because ultimately I think we're humans, right? We are emotionally led beings. And I do think it's completely okay to share in your emotions, but to not let your emotions take over. I think, that kind of threshold that they give, like, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, why should it matter past 5 minutes? Or it's something similar to that. But if I completely made that up, sorry, y'all. But it's definitely something similar. And if it's not that, it's that going forward. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, why are you letting it matter past 5 minutes? I hold true to this every single day. I think there are random moments of the day I call my boss, Ricky, and I'm like, I don't need anything except for you to just listen. I just need to get this off my chest. And then I'm like, boom, okay, I'm done. Now we're operating fact over feeling. But also, I think sometimes that some things that we do have a challenge with is really seeking feedback and seeking to listen and seeking to understand, seeking for clarity versus, having conversations surrounding rejection or no or redirection or however you want to define no as a way to just kind of vent and push back and really not essentially take accountability for all the amazing things that could happen if we let this happen. Another thing too is when we're faced with a no, is really just staying persistent. Like sometimes a no is not an end all be all, but it's really just a not yet. And I know that I personally have trouble with the not yet portion because then I start to dive in okay, so when? And I, will finagle things, factors that come into it thinking that, okay, if I finagle these factors, I could potentially get a yes instead of being confident and tying myself to the not yet. There are times where I'm trying to force the yes to happen when really I need to be okay and I need to be aligned because not every door that opens is meant for you to walk through. And it is okay to be satisfied with the not yet versus forcing a yes. So I think the biggest thing for me just kind of sharing in this episode is a season of no is not forever. And it's going to take 1,000,001 no's to lead you to the yes that makes the most sense for the space that you're in, for the environment that you're in, for the goals that you have. But my challenge to all of you is to just really work toward reframing your thoughts. Like, how can a no serve you instead of stopping you or hindering you? And my hope would be that the next no that you received is met with a level of clarity and understanding, and that you truly resonate that the season that you're in, what do they say? Like, no storm lasts forever. And quite honestly, that is the truth. No is not the opposite of success. More than anything, it's an opportunity for you to step toward a level of success with a new level of experience or a new level of really understanding, a new lesson learned, a new thought gained. And so that is really all I wanted to get off my heart for this episode. Together, collectively, we are working on reframing our thought process when it comes to no and just understanding the power that we have in no. So I hope that you were able to take at least the smallest thing away from this episode. I am very much looking forward to rolling out more episodes for you all, more content, me jumping out of bed in the middle of the night because I have a thought to share, and to share some crazy transitions and internal happenings with me coming soon when I'm available to, or when I'm able to share those things with you all. But as always, if you haven't already, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Unconventional Project on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, check out Multifamily Media Network on YouTube, visit the website, click on the podcast hosts and read all these incredible bios. We have some phenomenal brains with Multifamily Media Network that are behind these podcasts, sharing their insight, sharing their stories, sharing their experience with you. And it is my hope that you find someone that you can anchor onto and really resonate with as we navigate this industry together. It is a challenge to work in this space every single day. And so my hope is that you find some sort of relatability and know that there is someone out there experiencing some of these same things that you're experiencing. And ultimately, we can work to navigate these together. So again, good night, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day you are listening to this episode. I hope that you continue to thrive and what it means to constantly have one foot out the box at all times, bringing new and innovative thoughts to the table and really just bringing something unconventional. So I will see you all on the next episode. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. You made it to the end of the episode. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. The Unconventional Project is the table I've always dreamed of, a place where the seats never run out, where we celebrate life's experiences, big and small, and where our hunger for knowledge is never satisfied. Today, I hope you feel empowered to embark on your personal path to success, embracing every aspect of who you are, what you've been through, and the growth that lies ahead. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share it with your network. And remember, this podcast is proudly brought to you by Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living. The most successful project you'll ever work on is the unconventional one, the project that is uniquely you. Stay connected and see you soon.